I just reread your book this weekend. This was my third reading of this book. With each rereading, it's really as though I were reading it for the first time. It's really extraordinary. I feel like I have to ask you a number of questions which you might find too personal and you may not want to respond to them, and that's okay.
Okay, I'm game.
How did this project begin?
I'd say it began when someone who was here for dinner and mentioned something about Beckett's daughter, and knowing as much as I did about Beckett and having read the Deirdre Bair biography and the Jim Knowlson biography, I said, "Well, he didn't have any children. What are you talking about?" I began to do some research, and I could see that indeed there was an affair between Beckett and Susan Howe's mother. But what really caught me was then getting to know more about Susan Howe's work, which is really very extraordinary and very original. And then I was always taking notes on what seemed like her references to, an Irish upbringing, an Irish mother, and quoting W.B. Yeats. And, in a sense, she was brought up like an Anglo-Irish girl. And then it sort of cast a different light on Samuel Beckett's work, when the pandemic was starting to catch hold in 2020. And my wife and I left New York. We went upstate and we stopped and bought T.S. Eliot's Four Quartets. And in it, I ran across this line about in Burnt Norton about "Go," said the bird,
For the leaves were full of children, hidden excitedly, containing laughter. Go, 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 said the bird.
And I thought, well, yeah, I've been looking in the leaves for the children all these years, and certainly in the last 10 or so of this little project. And it just triggered the shape of this, that I had it all there. And all of my work leading up to this has been kind of formally adventurous. So it was very easy for me to just bring my son Josh's text messages in, bring in dream sequences, bring in quotations I had snatched from Susan Howe, and what I knew about Beckett, and my life as an adoptee, and put it all together. And although it's only about 36,000 words, which one would say is pretty short for a literary memoir, I really don't think I left anything out.
It has a feel of an abstract painting. Is there has that kind of aesthetic appealed to you personally in the past as far as your own work is concerned?
It has. The book before it, called Samuel Beckett is Closed, was put together in a similar way. It's a different kind of book, but I had 7 or 8 different narratives going on, and I didn't know quite what I was going to do with it. At some point, I had a dream about uh, building something out of stones and felt, and stones and felt, and stones and felt. And I woke up that morning and said, I know what I need to do. Find a way to intercut all these 8 or 9 things I have going here and make a book out of it. So I've done that. And in some of my books of poems, there are things stolen from the newspapers and so on.
The way your son appears in this book, it's really extraordinary. It's heart-wrenching. It's a really extremely moving book. You have supported him in a way that, I mean, you only raised him, I believe, till he was 2 years old. Do you take any pride in that?
Pride wouldn't be a word that I would think of with respect to um, helping him out. I feel responsible for his misery. It's hard to feel proud of, just, sending money for snacks and underwear and socks in a cruel American prison system, and that's in Indiana. But the reason it's in the book is that I felt he kind of connected to the theme of being orphaned, of not knowing really what his identity is.
I do have the sense from reading this book that there's a very strong sense in you of containing, being the container. You are there for your son in a way that makes me as a reader, I have no idea about the reality of this, but makes me feel as a reader an incredible amount of empathy, an incredible amount of respect for how you are handling this situation. The book is aesthetically incredibly pleasing, and it's incredibly emotionally moving. You pose an essential question about Beckett might possibly be Susan Howe's father. Let me read one line. All that concerns me here is the possibility that Irish-American artist and poet Susan Howe and Irish writer Samuel Beckett may both have developed their practices under the threat or promise of being daughter and father, and that their practices bear marks of the stress of not knowing beyond doubt something so crucial. They are extremely important artists. This would matter. So the fact that you say this would matter, I'm wondering whether you feel, first of all, might you have any interest in pursuing this further than what you have done by writing this book?
I don't think so. It's for other people to do if they feel so inclined. It's probably owing to my own experience as an adoptee who, as I said before, wondered for many, many years who my parents were, and fantasized who they might be, like most adoptees do. Once I found out, there was some, not exactly disappointment, but when I met, my relatives and things like that, I just felt it didn't add a lot, other than that the fact of what my parents liked, my birth parents. My father was a great James Joyce fan, and my mother was a singer and dancer, and they were artists in their own way. I'm content with that kind of arm's length understanding of my own origins, and I'm content in a way with my arm's length assessment of this issue between Susan and Samuel. If an infant doesn't feel contained at a crucial part of childhood development, then there are problems that ensue down the road. And I think something like that may have happened to me. I have always professed to have a wonderfully happy childhood and everything, but nonetheless, I'd made a succession of kind of bad judgments and bad mistakes and so on, where I would suddenly be taken with a fear of being abandoned. It was my book. It's important to me to get to the bottom of this, if you want to call it the bottom, and it had to happen. It had to be written.
I have to congratulate you on such a beautifully written book. The public really has something awaiting it as this book comes out.
Geez, that was intense.